What's up, guys? It's Harry Haas, and today we're going to be talking about a pattern that has been happening quite frequently over the last 3 or 4 months, and it's the VWAP reclaim pattern. This has always been kind of going on, but there's certain stocks that you can actually have a better edge on than other ones. So I'm going to get into that. Before I start, I'm not a licensed financial advisor. This is purely for entertainment purposes, and yeah, that's about it. So with this pattern, I'm looking for the stock to either use VWAP as support on the way up, or I like to see the stock starting to base underneath VWAP. VWAP is a line for me. The lower the float, the better. I'm going to get into a little bit more of those topics later. I'm not looking to buy into strength. And this is a pattern for your toolbox that we won't necessarily see every day, but it's a pattern that when you do see it, and I know on BLNP, me and Aloha kind of started to recognize this pattern before it happened, and we ended up catching a decent move on it. So it's a pattern that you kind of anticipate and you kind of watch for, but you're not necessarily going out and looking for it every day. So what I find works best for these types of zombie moves are stocks that are easy to borrow, they have SSR on, they're low float, they have high volume, the float has been rotated multiple times, it's above VWAP or it's reclaiming VWAP, and they're all day one stocks. The ideal time frame that I'm looking for is usually between 9:45 and 10:45, and ideally the stock dips kind of out of the open. Usually you get like a pop with a lot of people buying this stuff right away. But ideally the stock kind of pops and then dips, and we'll go over diagrams and we'll go over charts in a little bit. But ideally it dips, it starts to fade, but it isn't dead. Keep in mind the amount of volume being done, because if you have, and we're going to keep getting into this, but if the float has already been rotated a couple of times before it starts to zombie, that's something key that I'm looking for. And also, I don't love it if the volume dries up and it's just kind of fading. And what I mean by that is if it goes a couple minutes without even a single print on the tape, or, the volume has just dried up completely and it's just kind of getting illiquid and no one's really buying it or selling it and it's just kind of fading. I don't really like that action. And another thing I'm going to keep in mind for you guys is use the lines. So just because it is the VWAP pattern doesn't mean we're going to throw everything that we've learned in MIC out the window. We're going to incorporate the lines with these types of setups to give us an even bigger edge, rather than just saying, oh, well, it's a VWAP reclaim pattern, I don't need to use the lines for that. I use the lines for every single pattern or like little system or anything. I'm always going to be using resistance and support accompanied by the type of thesis and idea that I have. So yeah, let's get into it. This is MYO from today, and I'm going to talk about this stock, the types of patterns. You're going to see the same pattern coming up over and over and over again. So basically what we have here is we have a low float, which the float has been rotated. We get a pop, and then immediately we get this sort of dipping action. And this dipping action, you have a lot of short sellers saying, the stock is done, there's no way that it can come back from this. Just the psychology in this is that you're going to have a lot of people counting the stock out and saying it's done. But what they're not realizing is that this is a low float. This stock has a decent amount of range. There's a lot of things that are kind of going for the stock. So then we start to see it base up. So basically there's kind of two entry signals that I see here. One is that the stock is basing underneath VWAP. That's a type of thing that I like, because usually when I see it base under VWAP, I know that a lot of shorts are risking VWAP, and then we get this massive pop and we've blown through all their stocks. So basically, if I'm gonna enter underneath VWAP, I'm kind of anticipating that when the stock goes through VWAP that we're gonna have a nice big push. And the other entry that I see here is this red candle. So I'm never going to enter long into a candle like this, but into a candle like this where I see the stock dipping and I notice that the stock's holding, that's something that I'm going to look for as well. And then of course we get this move up, but ideally I'm looking for an entry here with it basing underneath VWAP, or an entry here where I notice that the stock is holding kind of above VWAP in that kind of area. But again, I know I'm going to repeat myself a lot, but I just want you guys to understand that I'm never going to be entering in these big volume candles, these big strength candles, because I know that a lot of people are going to see a lot of green on the tape, they're going to see a lot of buying, and they're going to be trying to chase this candle. So I never want to chase it. I'm either going to enter at this base, or I'm going to enter when I notice that the stock is holding. So let's go to a new one. This one's BLPH. This is one that me and Aloha were actually talking about. The chat commentary, someone made a PDF out of it, which was really nice of them. They could have just kept that for themselves, but they shared it with the community, so that was super nice. So again, we noticed this basing underneath VWAP. So that is kind of a tell for me to say, hey, we had this kind of initial low. Now we're noticing this base. The reason why I didn't go long into this type of basing action was because I noticed kind of like the $6 resistance level, and in the commentary we talk about that, but I don't like to go long on these too early. I'd rather it kind of start to come around near zombie time. So yeah, like that was just kind of what I was looking for, and we by this time, like, we know that the stock like should have faded, and that's another thing. Like, this stock should have faded. This stock should have been done. But coming up and basing again is telling me that the stock is strong and that the stock is actually looking to go higher. So on this type of basing action, I like it. Another entry for me again is like this type of action where we have the stock holding, because when you look at the price action on this, on demand, or maybe you recorded your screen on it, you can notice that the stock likes to, it doesn't want to go below VWAP. It was kind of holding here for like 1, 2, 3 minutes, and then it just kept going up again. So the entry I see is the basing action, and right here, again, I'd never long into strength here. I'm either going to long over VWAP and look for that basing action, or under VWAP where, we're starting to make a higher low in this type of area. Those are, just things that I like personally. So yeah, here's this one here. This is CPAH. This is another recent one that I just wanted to kind of go over. So again, we get this pop at the open, and then we get this fade. Notice how this is kind of the reason why I don't like going into strength, is because, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, well, it's broken VWAP, now I can go chase. That's not the type of stuff I'm looking for. We have kind of like one fake one here, one fake one here, and, the stock is fading. Now, this is what I'm kind of looking for, and kind of, this is the action that I want to start to see, is that, the stock should have kept fading at this part. If you're a short seller and you're short in here, you're expecting the stock to just fade all day. I mean, the stock looks like it's in a downtrend. The stock looks like it's going to keep going lower. But again, people don't understand that this is a micro float. This is a stock where its float has been rotated a couple times. So when I see this, start to come up, just like kind of the last example that I showed you, this starts to get interesting when these dips start holding, when this type of price action starts to, hang on. This is the stuff that tells me, okay, maybe this isn't dead yet. Maybe I can take some at 2.9, risking 2.8, and you see the stock go all the way up to 3.4, even selling at VWAP or 3.3. Like, that's still an amazing long opportunity here. So when I see this start to base and I see these dips start to hold, that's stuff that I really like. Yeah, and the other entry I do see, just for me, I don't know if this is necessarily the best risk reward entry, but it does start to base again, over VWAP right here, and then we get that nice candle up. That could have been a chat room, that could have been whatever, but we do start to see it base over VWAP right here. So I am gonna kind of look at this type of entry. I'm gonna look at this type of entry, and that's just where I see the stock, where I see a decent entry personally. That kind of goes along with my thesis. This one right here, this one's a tricky one because TCCO was a stock that trapped a lot. So again, this is why I don't like entering into strength, is because we have one type of stuff move into VWAP, another stuff move into VWAP. What's interesting here is how this stock, it won't die. So, the float has been rotated a couple of times, and we get a move. So it dumps, the dump gets bought up, and, another stuff into VWAP. Dumps, gets bought up, and another stuff into VWAP. It dumps, by this time, if you're patient enough to sit through this and wait and not take a loss, like, I honestly commend you. This wasn't a ticker that I traded. I think I took the day off that day, or I wasn't in, or no, this ticker, I actually think that I was in this like pre-market or something, and I was like, no, I don't want to give back any gains. But I didn't get this reclaim, and I'm kind of happy that I didn't, because this one was a really tough one, where we had a dump and then we get bought up and stuff. And anyway, so by this time where we start to see the dips getting bought up again, like at the when it kind of held $5, like it should have been done, it should have faded, it should have kept going down, but it's types of things where things should happen and they don't, that kind of make the best opportunities in the market. And here, we see another, this should have kept going down, but instead this dip kind of gets to bought up. So the entry that I kind of see here, there's like a couple ones where you could have entered here anticipating it to go over VWAP. When VWAP stuffed, you could have like kind of sold into here, or maybe made it out break even. You get another, maybe right here, but I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have been more patient. So this one's a tricky one. I was just showing this one because I wanted to say that these aren't a walk in the park, and they do take some practice and some time to master. But it's important to see that, like, buying these strength candles into VWAP, like, that's not what I like. I either like to go long into this basing action, or you wait to see a base, at like at $6, or a little bit over, and you're seeing a base after we got the massive candle, and some pullback. But that's kind of this one's a really tough one. I just really wanted to show it because I wanted to emphasize that going long into this kind of stuff move is not really the best. But once shorts are trapped here, we have all the shorts trapped here, then you could maybe look to go long in the basing action here. But it's just something where, the more you go over this pattern and the more you look at it, the more patient you can be, and the more you start to kind of understand the technology, or sorry, the more you can start to understand the technicals and the psychology and everything else around it, that can, really start to give you better entries, and, allow you to understand the pattern a little bit better. So this one, this one's a little bit easier. So this one, we get one of those crazy chat room pumps, whatever they are. We get this crazy amount of buying at the open, and then it starts to fade down, and it starts to fade down. And we look at this. This is 11:30 because it's my time. This is actually 10:30 market time. And we notice that this stock starts to reclaim. And what I like about this one is that it starts using VWAP as support rather than getting kind of the basing action down here. It starts to use VWAP as support. So this is one where we kind of would start using VWAP as a support line. Why I wouldn't want to go long this VWAP bounce here is because it's kind of in a downtrend here. And especially after this massive dump candle, I know that there's going to be a lot of longs trapped from up here, so I'm just going to wait it out and be patient. And, we start to see this basing action on VWAP. That's some sort of stuff that I like, because that tells me that this stock's a little bit stronger than everyone thinks. And that tells me that, maybe this does have a shot, especially with a lower float type of stock. Maybe this does have a shot to keep going up. Maybe this, maybe we shouldn't count this out right now, because I know that there are going to be a lot of people that say, well, it's under VWAP, it's going to be a fader, it's just a pump and dump, it's going back to $1, I'm going to hold this overnight, and it's going to gap down to 50 cents. Like, there's going to be a lot of people thinking like that, and there's going to be a lot of people counting it out. But you just have to keep, you just have to keep in mind the criteria and all the pros going for you. What should have happened here is that this should have stuffed under VWAP and it kept going down. But instead, it starts to use VWAP as support, and it starts to keep grinding up. That's a nice little zombie grinder. So again, we're going to have stocks like this too. I'm kind of showing some hard ones and some easier ones just so you understand that, it's not a very easy pattern to get. But I think if you watch this video a couple times and you go over some price action on demand, and you kind of take the examples that I'm giving you, you can really get a hang, you can really get the hang of stocks like this. So again, we kind of get this fade on CGIX, and it comes up, it starts to stuff into VWAP. There's going to be a lot of short sellers saying it's stuffed into VWAP, it's done, it's done, it's done. We're so easy. But once we kind of get this green candle up over this area, that every single short seller is underwater, and especially with the low thin float, we can start to get some range here. And that's exactly what happened, where every short seller is probably risking VWAP, and that's something that I like. So what you can do is you can use this $5 support line from previously that also lines up with VWAP coincidentally, and kind of go long here. That would be the play that I'd be looking for here, rather than trying to anticipate this type of move. I know from a psychological point of view now that everyone who shorted the stock is short in this area, because I imagine that a lot of people were thinking, oh, this is a low float. Like, the earliest short probably they got is like maybe like in here or in here, but the minute a lot of people, when they have these borrows, they're going to be super cautious because they know it's a low float. But when we get this dumping trap action, that everyone's stuck short in here. So when we get this green candle, every short seller's underwater. And you're going to get a couple people who were risking VWAP, and their stocks kind of jumped, and they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to cover at VWAP. And when you get a lot of people trying to cover on one spot, it starts to get used as support, and that's kind of what happened here as well. So I guess my entry on something like this, I'd try and get a long into VWAP. That'd be something that I try and use. Or also maybe you could look for this type of basing action up here for a leg higher. But that's more of kind of, I think that's a lot harder entry than just trying to look here. Look for this type of area here. I would like this type of area a lot better. Again, like, you can be a lot more confident in this type of trade because it's a low float, and that every single short seller is underwater for the most part, that was longing after the market open, or was shorting after the market open. Sorry, it's been a long day. That every single short seller that shorted after the market opened up is short between $5 and let's say roughly $4. And now that the stock is trading above where everyone was short, everyone's going to be kind of panicking, and you can make money off all those short sellers panicking and shorting the low float that dumped. So yeah, that's that one. SES, another type play. You notice how these all fade, right? And notice how they're all type of zombies. So this one's kind of a nice one because it starts to base under VWAP. And, we get a little fake stuff move right here. But the entry on this one would kind of be right here. And, SES, that was a insane type of stock that happened in October. And, again, what do we get? The type of basing underneath VWAP. And then, by this point, all short sellers are underwater on the day, and the stock just continues higher to 15. But what you can look at right here is kind of this basing action under VWAP, and then it starts to go over, and that's just the type of action that I like, where the float has been rotated. That this is a low float, and that after, once you see this type of action, that it has potential for that reclaim. Also, this is at 10 o'clock, in between 10 and 10:30, so that zombie hour is just around the corner. And that potentially, you have a lot of trapped short sellers in here already, because maybe people were a little scared to go short up here. So, maybe they go short at $9 because they're like, oh man, like, this is a stock that can really fade, and it's got a lot of meat on the bone, but instead it starts to trap. So yeah, I like to go long when I start to see this basing underneath VWAP, and then this is kind of your confirmation that all the short sellers in this type of area are all underwater. And yeah, that's really about it on this one. This one, RKDA. So yeah, this was a trade that I made. There were a couple other people in MIC that made this trade too. I know this was a day that hurt a lot of people, but this type of action is a stock that it started basing underneath VWAP, and the reason why I didn't want to take it in this area, or maybe I might have taken a starter in this area. The reason why this is a little bit early is because the time of day. So to expect a VWAP reclaim here on this type of pattern, it's too fresh. Right at 9:30, right at 9:45, too fresh. But when we start to get in this 10 o'clock, 10:30, this is 10 o'clock, 10:30 market time. When we start to get into this type of area, that's when I like. And when we start to see it grind up, that this stock is a lot stronger than what people think. And a lot of people were short into 2.8. A lot of people were short into maybe 3, maybe 2.9, maybe this area. But when the stock starts to grind up, that shorts are going to start to get antsy. And that's why I like this little area, because we have some short sellers that are covering. We have some people that maybe are expecting this type of move. I don't think anyone really expects this type of move to this degree, but we are seeing this type of basing action under VWAP. And boom, we just ended up, there's no type of action where it just kind of comes up and starts to base. This just really, it really went, and it really trapped a lot of people. But again, it's these easy to borrow stocks that, this should have died, right? Like this should have went to 2.6. It should have went to 2.4. But when it started to grind up to 2.9, to 2.8, to 3, that tells me that maybe there's a bigger move at play here. Maybe everyone's short thesis is wrong on it. Maybe they've been able to just trap so many people, because it just dumped at the open, and now we have people trapped in this type of range. So yeah. If you can start to recognize this type of price action, the price action that just kind of dumps at the open, that starts to consolidate, and it's approaching 10, it's approaching 10:30, and we're starting to see the stock move up and go a little higher. Those are great characteristics for these type of zombie moves. This is another one. RKDA, I believe this might be the day after or another day, but again, did this same type of action where the stock starts to, oh no, maybe this was from last year. But anyhow, this is a really trappy stock. But again, we get this tank at the open, it's kind of holding, and then we end up getting this move up. And, we're either going to get a nice little base, I think, under VWAP, or we're either going to get where the stock starts supporting over VWAP. And when, right here, the stock is, supporting VWAP, how many times, how patient can you be? Like, this is about 5 minutes, 10 minutes of trading, where it's just tried to break VWAP, come back up, tried to break VWAP, come back up, tried to break. How many times has it tried to break? And then we get this nice move. And, we have shorts who are stuck from down here. But now we might have shorts who are saying, oh my God, we got a higher low. This is perfect. It's going to go all the way down to 6. So we get another nice little trap here. So basically my entry on this one would definitely be like in VWAP, because the thesis here would just be that, this is a VWAP reclaim. This is a low float. The float has been rotated. We're getting so much volume down here that, I'm just going to look for this kind of basing action over VWAP when we didn't really have the basing action close underneath. So yeah, that's something that I'd be looking for sure. So that was pretty much all the ones that I had, all the examples that I had. I'm sure there's a ton more that you can find. If you're looking at the VWAP reclaim, just make sure that you're looking for the basing action. The low float is going to be the best on them. I have seen them run on higher floats, but I don't usually. And just be patient. So if you're looking for the basing action underneath VWAP, just be patient and make sure that's holding, and make sure you're not really chasing into strength, and make sure those dips are being bought back up, because that's going to be a key sign onto whether this pattern is going to be working or not. Do not long into the strength. Don't long into those big green candles. Don't long into those, some people think that they're really confirmation candles, but it could be a chat room. It could be it could be anything. Don't long just because you're getting a bunch of green tape. Pay attention to what the stock is doing. Pay attention to how it's acting. Are the dips getting bought up? Are we over a zone where a bunch of people could be short? Are we, seeing action very close underneath VWAP? Are we over VWAP, and are we seeing the stock start to base now? I'm always asking these questions in my head. I'm collecting all this little information that can make trade decisions for me. And yeah, again, I'm just saying never chase. Don't long the strength. Don't do that, because that can put you at such a disadvantage and a risk reward and really screw up your trade. Be patient. Wait for a dip, and wait and see if that dip is holding, because you could have, you could be potentially longing into a stuff move like I showed you earlier, where, we get a stuff into VWAP and then we get a massive crack down and then everyone's trapped again. So just make sure that you're not longing into strength, that you're watching that kind of grindy action, make sure that those dips are being bought up, and make sure that you're kind of seeing the action like I talked about before. So yeah, this is the end. Don't hesitate to message me. I'm always around. I'm always here. But just for future reference, I talk to members all the time. I do calls, 2 or 3 or 4 calls every day after the market closes, and after I'm done trading. I'm usually done trading at 2 or 3 o'clock. So when we start to see that reversal come into play. So that's the time that I'm usually done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, don't hesitate to message me.